In a quiet village surrounded by green hills and flowing rivers, there lived an old farmer named Eli. His hands were rough, his back was bent from years of working under the sun, but his eyes still carried the calmness of a man who had learned the language of time. Eli was known among villagers not for his wealth or strength, but for something rarer, his patience. Every morning before sunrise, Eli would step out of his small mud house, carrying his worn-out shovel and a small basket of seeds. The world around him was still asleep. The birds hadn't yet begun to sing, and the mist floated gently over the fields. He would kneel on the moist soil and begin his day with a silent prayer. May today's labor not go to waste. One summer, while the other farmers were busy planting rice and wheat, Eli decided to plant bamboo seeds on a piece of barren land near the edge of the forest. The villagers laughed when they saw him. Bamboo, they said, was a foolish crop. It took too long to grow and brought no quick profit. But Eli simply smiled and replied, "Sometimes the things that take longest to grow stand the strongest in the storm." He planted the seeds carefully, covered them with soil, and watered them daily. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. The sun rose and set, the rain came and went, but not a single green shoot appeared from the ground. The villagers mocked him every day. "Eli," one of them shouted, "how's your invisible crop doing?" Another added, "Maybe your seeds turned into stones." Eli would just nod and continue watering the empty patch of land. "Patience," he whispered, "is the water of faith." The first year, waiting without signs. For an entire year, Eli watered the same spot every morning and every evening. He loosened the soil, removed the weeds, and cared for it as if the seeds were alive beneath. But the ground looked the same, silent, empty, and lifeless. The other farmers reaped their harvest twice, while Eli's field gave him nothing. His wife Mira grew worried. "Eli," she said one evening, "we have little food left and you're wasting time on dead soil. Why don't you plant something else?" Eli smiled and said gently, "Mira, every seed has its own time. You can't rush the season that God has written." She sighed but trusted him. She had seen that calm conviction in his eyes many times before, when storms had destroyed their crops, when illness had struck, and yet he never gave up. Still, the village called him stubborn. Children ran past his field and laughed, but Eli didn't respond. He continued watering his empty patch, believing that something was happening beneath the surface, something his eyes could not yet see. The second year, the whisper of doubt. Another year passed. 2 years of labor and still no green shoot. Eli's hands were older now, his back more bent. The whispers in the village grew louder. "Old man, you've lost your mind. 2 years of water wasted for nothing. Even weeds are smarter, at least they know how to grow." There were moments when even Eli's heart began to tremble. One afternoon, as he stood under the burning sun, he looked at the dry soil and thought, "What if they're right? What if this was all for nothing?" He sat down on the edge of the field, sweat dripping from his face, and closed his eyes. For a long time he sat there in silence until a gentle wind brushed against his face. He remembered the words of his late father. "Son, the roots always grow before the branches. What's unseen builds what will one day be seen." With renewed faith, Eli stood up, picked up his watering pot, and continued his daily ritual. Every drop of water that touched the soil carried a message. "I believe in what's coming." The third year, faith against failure. 3 years. Not a sign. The ground remained still as if mocking him. His neighbors began to avoid him, thinking he had gone crazy. Even Mira had started planting vegetables in a small corner of their yard to feed the family. She didn't stop him anymore, but she no longer asked about the bamboo. There was nothing left to say. One day, a young boy named Noah, who often helped other farmers, came to Eli and asked, "Uncle Eli, why do you keep watering that land if nothing grows?" Eli smiled. "Come closer, Noah, tell me what you see." "I see dry soil," the boy said honestly. Eli chuckled softly. "That's what most people see. But do you know what I see?" The boy shook his head. The boy smiled and ran home, telling everyone that Eli's invisible plants were growing underground. The villagers laughed at the story, but for Eli it was enough. Someone finally understood the 4th year. The breaking point. The 4th year came, and still, the land remained bare. By now, most people had forgotten about Eli's bamboo field. It had become an ordinary piece of land, no different from the forest edge. Eli himself began to feel tired. His age was catching up. His hands shook, His eyesight dimmed, and sometimes he forgot to water the plants. One stormy evening, as rain poured and wind roared, Eli sat near the window of his small house, watching the lightning flash across the sky. He thought of all the years he had spent nurturing invisible seeds. Tears welled up in his eyes as he whispered, "Maybe it wasn't meant to be." Just then, Mira placed her hand on his shoulder. "Eli, you have given 4 years of faith. Don't let one night of doubt take it away." Her words revived something in him. The next morning, despite the storm, he walked to the field and watered it again. The soil was soft and soaked, but his heart felt firm and strong. He whispered again, "Patience never fails. Only we do." The 5th spring arrived. The world around the village was alive. Birds sang, flowers bloomed, and the air smelled fresh. One morning, Eli walked to the field as usual, carrying his pot of water. As he bent down, something unusual caught his eye, a tiny green shoot breaking through the soil. His breath caught in his chest. He rubbed his eyes, thinking it was his imagination, but no, it was real. A small bamboo sprout stood proudly, shining under the sunlight. Eli dropped to his knees, tears streaming down his wrinkled face. After 5 long years, the first sign of life had appeared. In the next week, more shoots appeared. Within a month, dozens of bamboo stalks emerged. And then something extraordinary happened. They began to grow at an incredible speed. Each day, Eli watched in awe as the bamboo rose higher and higher. 3 feet, 6 feet, 10 feet, 20 feet. In just 6 weeks, the bamboo had grown over 80 feet tall. The same villagers who had mocked him now stood in silence, unable to believe their eyes. His once barren field was now a green forest of towering bamboo, swaying gracefully in the wind. One of the men approached him and said, "Eli, you are the wisest farmer among us. How did you do this?" Eli smiled and said softly, "It wasn't me. It was time. The bamboo taught me that patience is not waiting. It's trusting that your work is worth it even when there's no visible result." Years later, long after Eli had passed, the bamboo grove still stood strong, tall, unshaken by storms, and evergreen through every season. Travelers often stopped by to admire its beauty. The villagers built a small bench nearby where people could sit and rest. On that bench, they carved a simple line that Eli once said, "Real growth happens in silence. Be patient, your roots are forming." Generations passed, and his story spread beyond the village. Teachers, students, and entrepreneurs began sharing the tale of Eli and his bamboo. It became a symbol of perseverance, of the hidden power that lives within quiet effort. The story of the bamboo tree is not just about farming, it's about life. In life, we all plant seeds, dreams, goals, relationships, or careers. And often, after days, months, or even years of effort, nothing seems to happen. We look around and see others growing faster, succeeding earlier, and we start to doubt ourselves. We think our hard work is wasted. But what we forget is that our roots are growing underground, strengthening, deepening, preparing us for what's ahead. When you practice daily discipline, studying, learning, working hard, staying honest, even when no one notices, you are growing like the bamboo. Your foundation is forming. You are becoming unshakable. Patience doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing the right thing, again and again, even when it feels like it's not working. It means believing that every small effort counts. Every drop of water, every kind act, every early morning, every sacrifice. Because one day, just like Eli's bamboo, your moment will come. And when it comes, you won't just grow, you'll rise higher and faster than anyone imagined because your roots will be ready. So my friend, if you are working hard but seeing no results, don't lose faith. If life feels slow, if your dreams seem distant, remember the bamboo. For 5 years, it grew invisible roots. Then in just 6 weeks, it shot up taller than any tree around it.